The good, the bad, the ugly. The good is the EPA. The bad, vaccinations. So, let's do a general reading on vaccinations. The lack of vaccinations has led to the increase of measles, they say. Chickenpox. If you ever had chickenpox, you can get shingles, but measles is one that's really wearing. And it is one that you can be vaccinated. Now, a lot of people say there is a link between vaccinations and autism. So, like, we don't want our children vaccinated because that could make them autistic. So, let's see. Vaccinations should be called the good, the complicated, and the ugly. I might change it today. Because my next one is also complicated. So, the good, the complicated, and the ugly. The complicated. Vaccinations. Let's see what it says. Queen of Swords. So there are laws that are trying to be passed, but I think that infringes on people's individual freedoms, but your individual freedom could possibly cost my child, you know, so we'll see. Justice, yeah, this is about laws for real. So now we're dealing with the legal system. So the legal system steps in. This is where Republicans have their argument of big government. Government being everywhere, having their hands in everything. So, let's see. Eight of Wands. So there's a debate, conversation, hearings, a bunch of communications. This is through the air, so this is talking. Five of Pentacles. This is my disease card. I save it for disease because it reminds me of leprosy. Like, you were shunned by the institutions, especially religious ones, for leprosy back in the day. And so that's my disease card. And then the High Priestess. What happens a lot of times in these conversations is they're not had enough, and they're not had in the open. They're not had openly and honestly. They're not even have it sincerely. They're just kind of, this is what I believe, well, this is what I believe, and then we split ways. I mean, you just kind of wanted to raise some noise, not awareness. So, around the communication is the High Priestess. Now, the High Priestess could be an intuition card. It could be a secrets card. It could be a mystery card. It could be like a feminine energy card. But I think it's more along the lines of a this is complicated card. And not that this situation is that really that complicated, but when you take people into consideration and all of the different things that they feel and all the different actions that they want to do, then it becomes complicated. Because you can't just dismiss a person because you don't agree when you're trying to have a debate and a conversation. Where you dismiss them is when they try to battle your logic and your facts with their feelings. So right now we're still in the feeling stage because the High Priestess is a intuition card. This is not a card of logic. It's a card of relying on the intuition. The Wheel of Fortune. After the Disease card, this will eventually move on and play out. Where vaccinations may be not just required, but mandatory. If you want to have your baby in a hospital, if you want to take your baby or your child to public school, I believe they have to be vaccinated if they go to a public school. If that's not the case, that's what this law cards in the beginning are trying to work on. The fear is the regret and the disappointment. That's also a card of illness as well. The Five of Cups. But it's not disease. It's just like something you can cure. The hopes is desires. Now, whose desires? Since we started with the law, the people who are in favor of vaccinations. That's the hope. And the fear is the, not disappointment, but the, what's the word? The you being plagued with disease and you living amongst the rest of us. I'll just say it that way. In the environment is the Hangman. Going nowhere just yet. I said this will eventually play out. This is not anytime soon. Behind the scenes is the Ten of Wands. This is a burden and unable to move. So, stuck. Staying stuck. So we will be here for a minute. I just seen another story about measles because of, the no vaccination crowd. So, and they have that right. If you don't want to have your child pumped full of medicine, then that's your prerogative. The Magician is your word of warning. Get the facts. The Magician is a person of tools, a person of abilities, a person who also casts smoke screens and illusions. So make sure you see through that and see what's really going on. See if vaccinations truly have a true link between vaccinations and autism. I don't have autism. I was vaccinated. But nowadays, there's something different, I suppose. So you don't want your child vaccinated. I get you. Your word of solace is the Five of Wands. This is a debate that will carry on. The reason why this is a word of solace and not like a word of warning is because debate is how you move through this. Because it has to take, the wheel of turning or the wheel of fortune is a cycle. It has to finish the cycle. And in order to finish this cycle, you do need some back and forth. And then the Eight of Cups, like I said, eventually this will work itself out. This is the outcome card. This is abandonment. And moving on to something else. So I don't see a compromise card in here at all. What I get is the laws. They want to establish. And then eventually moving away from this conversation to something else. So what I would say is vaccinations will no longer be the the focus point of the debate, the focus point of the conversation, because we're stuck and stagnant right now and we can't move. But you will eventually have the new outlook to where you will say, okay, so we will agree on this. But this is the way this is now going to work. So we can say no to no, but like I said, this is not a compromise because there is no compromise card. All I get was justice and laws. So follow our laws or don't and homeschool your kid. Because a new conversation emerges after the vaccination conversation. So this is not over. This is not even close to over. Like I said, the good, the complicated, and the ugly. So what we have right now is the vaccination conversation will evolve into a completely different conversation. Probably the way it's administered or what's administered. You can have a measles vaccination, but not a vaccinations for this, and this type of thing. So, or you can't give them to me all at once, or you can't give them to me after these ages or before these ages. So it's going to reach something in the justice system is going to say, these are the rules, this is what you must do, and you can do this alternative if you don't choose to do this. So you will be handed the playbook and then you will make your own choices. Then a new conversation will emerge. That's what I see for the complicated.